Hello. Hi everyone. Welcome to the Guiding Voice podcast series. The Guiding Voice for a better future. This podcast is to help students and young professionals shape their careers. Thank you for tuning in. This is Naveen and I'm with my co-host Sudhakar. In this episode, we are presenting you an overview of web technologies. This is generally a common topic across the developer community. However, the technology has evolved so much from a Java, .NET days to the current React.js, AngularJS and serverless generation.
To talk about this ever-evolving field, we are with a technology specialist who has been breathing this world of web technologies for the last 15 years. It gives me immense pleasure to invite Vara Srinivas, who is a solution architect responsible for design, availability, and performance of ABB's global e-commerce web presence ecosystem called Empower.
Vara also has a solid background in the ITO domain, programming, system design and administration, enterprise integrations, application revamps and upgrades. Currently, he is venturing into cloud solutions architecture space. Vara loves to code and you will always see him experimenting with new technologies and gadgets. Let's learn from his experience on how web technologies have evolved in the last 2 decades and how the current generation can be future ready.
Thank you, Vara, for joining us today and appreciate your valuable time. Vara, let's get into your wonderful journey on web technologies. Vara, can we start with the basics of web technologies? That is, if I am a college student with a passion to become a good programmer, what should I know about these web technologies?
Thank you, Naveen and Sudhakar, for the wonderful introduction. I think I would not have introduced myself better than this. I'm actually flattered. When I was reading something related to web technology today, I was just looking back at my career 15 years back, and whatever you summarized, I was flattered that I've done so much in my career, and I can share that knowledge today to all the listeners out there. So first, I would like to say good morning, good evening, and good afternoon to everyone out there. Before I get into web technologies, let me ask Naveen or Sudhakar, or both of you, what do you think is the most popular programming language out there?
Is it Python?
Is it C?
C, okay. Any other guesses?
JavaScript?
Okay, so you have to finalize. Okay, stick to one technology now.
I'm sticking to C, buddy. Navid, you can stick to Python maybe.
Okay.
I'll go with Python, yeah.
Okay, so keep the thought for a while. Okay, so guys, bear with me for a while because this is going to be a lengthy answer.
Okay.
First, I want to clear the air on what is the difference between web developers and web designers and their actually relationship with web technology, because people use these terms interchangeably a lot. There is a confusion around these terms. So let's take web designers first. Any guesses what web designers do, Naveen?
They create the pages, web pages.
Okay. Yeah, you got it right. So basically, web designers, what they do is that they create static website using HTML and CSS, and he or she may also be involved in UI UX design. That's about it.
Mm-hmm.
Web designers actually also responsible for creative tasks. So when you create a website, it's a creative task. So they involve with UI and UX designers and create a site which is engaging. Okay, and basically, as you mentioned, it would be static. So traditionally, when I was starting up my career, I used to think like designers easy job. But when later on I got into work, I realized that is very challenging and very creative work, and it takes a lot of effort. So maybe you think that I'm giving a lot of gyan, but there are people who get confused on these terms. So I just wanted to clear this first so that I can go ahead with web technologies and what are main things which you should know about web technology. Okay.
Yep.
So basically, I think listeners wants to become a web developers, right? So the current trend is like there are a lot of jargons around what developers do. So I just want to clear, or whatever doubts listeners have, I want to just clear that air around it. Okay, so whether you're a web developer or web designer, the first main thing which you should know is that you should know basics of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. That is absolute must. There's no way around it. So if you do not know these things, I mean, you cannot survive in the web technology space. So now let's talk about the most influential people in the world. I'll tell you why I call web developers the most influential people in the world sometime later. But let me talk on what a good web developer is.
Okay.
As I mentioned, to become a good web developer, you have to know the knowledge of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. But what actually you want to become is the next question. So there are three roles currently. If you see any job description, right? So there are three roles basically it's mentioned. So one is front-end developer, other is back-end developer, and the third one is the full stack developers. So I'm going to break down all these three because our listeners would want to know what actually the roles and responsibility and the technologies behind these three roles are. So Naveen, if you remember, I think yesterday we were in the one of the WhatsApp chats. If you see, somebody mentioned that what is a full stack technology, so for an intern. So there are people out there who actually do not understand these terminologies. So I just wanted to give better information around that.
Okay.
That would be great.
Yeah, so let's talk about front-end developers first. So front-end developers are responsible for creating a website. They are responsible for look and feel and interaction on the website. For that matter, mobile, hybrid mobile apps, because they are also based on web technologies. If you want to become a good front-end developer, you need to know HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. I mean, you need to know HTML, CSS to the depth, but JavaScript you can use certain libraries to overcome certain challenges. But HTML, CSS required for sure. Then comes the framework. So you have to at least know one of the frameworks right now which are used to create websites, for example, Vue, React, or Angular. So any one of them which you think are relevant to the project or interest, you have to know for sure. And you also have to know web services. So there are two types of web service, RESTful web service and SOAP web service. Most of the JavaScript technologies now use only RESTful web service. So you have to know the knowledge of the RESTful web services, but you're not going to build them. So you are going to consume the data. So as I mentioned, to summarize, if you are a front-end developer, you have to know HTML, CSS, JavaScript, along with front-end frameworks such as Vue, React, and Angular. So Naveen or Sudhakar, do you have anything to add, or anything which you want to talk about, or any questions you have around that?
Yeah, actually, this is really useful, especially for me who is not a core developer, because that is not what I do for a living. So it's really a great summary that, front-end developer, back-end developer, full stack developer, and knowledge about HTML, CSS, and the development framework, be it the front-end or back-end. Thank you very much for that.
Okay, now coming to back-end developers. So typically when we started, at least I started my career, so I used to consider myself as a back-end developer because most of the coding which we used to do were related to JSP and Java. So basically we used to not do much of HTML work or CSS work because that used to be sourced by some other web designer. So basically now if you come to web developer, they are typical into server-side programming, the dynamic part of website. So as Naveen mentioned, front-end developers are, they build front-end, or web designers, they build static content on the website. So the back-end developers are responsible for dynamic part of the website. So they are responsible for getting data from the database or ERP or web service, and they are responsible for sending the back data to the website so that it can be displayed. So some of the popular server-side programming languages are Java, Python, .NET, PHP, even JavaScript now, because Node.js has become very popular and it's gaining with a lot of traction in industry right now. So that's about a back-end developer. To summarize, they are responsible for the server-side programming, and they generally fetch data from different sources to display on the front end. So now coming to the full stack developers. So full stack developers are the big fish. Why I say big fish is because they have knowledge and application of both front end and back end technology. So they are the real deal. And if you want to aspire to become a good web developer, I think you should start thinking as a full stack developer, because if you become a full stack developer, you will know the gambit of what is going on in the world, related to web technologies. Just if you stick to front end or back end, you'll not know the complete picture. So that's why I'm trying to say that you try to become a full stack developer, because it'll make you a better programmer in your later career, and better architect also. And also it is important to note that if you want to become full stack developers, it's not necessary that CSS and HTML in and out. You need to know just the basics, but you have to know the server side programming very well, because most of the job is at the server side. You need to get the data from database or web services. So to summarize, if you want to become a full stack developers, you need to know front technology like Angular or React, and also a server side programming language like Java, Spring, or Node.js for that matter. To summarize, there are three types of roles for a web developer, that is front end, back end, and full stack. And right now in the market, there is a lot of demand for full stack developers. So I would suggest, if you're starting your career, you try to aspire to become a full stack developer. So Naveen or Sudhakar, now can you guess what is the most popular programming language in the world?
JavaScript.
Yeah, JavaScript it is.
One final point I wanted to stress out is that I told that one of the most influential people in the world are web developers. Why I say so is because whatever you read on the internet or buy or do on internet is created by web developers. Okay, so Facebook or Google is created by web developers, and it is a big deal. So basically now data science has become big part of technology. But without the traffic coming from these websites, you'll not have any data. I guess this is controversial, but you have to understand that web developers are very crucial part of this technology life cycle. So they generate the data for others to consume and try to analyze what users want. But as I mentioned, they are on the top of the food chain, and they kind of trickle the data to other technologies to consume and analyze. I know this is something which I personally perceive, but I think it's a neat way to put in that web developers are one of the leading technology specialists right now out there.
Excellent, Vara. The passion towards the technology is so visible in your conversation, detailed explanation that you provided.
Thank you. Yeah.
So with the past 15 years of experience, what are the changes or features that you have seen in your journey in this web technologies world?
Okay. I think there are a couple of factors which have influenced web technology. So let me think. Okay. So there is a lot of change in infrastructure space. So if you take, when I was starting my career, and if I wanted a web server, it would take a week's time or maybe a month's time to provision it. But the things have changed now, from physical servers to cloud to containers now. Now if I'm an architect, I have to think, because the containers have become the go-to things right now. So as an architect, I have to think what technology best suits a container-based framework. So if you see nowadays people are talking about microservices. So microservice containers are synonymous. So for example, if you take Spring Boot, it was specifically developed for cloud and microservices. So infrastructure is also an influencing part on where the technology is going. As we were talking initially, serverless technology. So that has also come into picture. So basically, people are trying to write code as functions and make them serverless, so that they don't have the headaches of availability and scaling. So infrastructure, I think, is a big player in evolution of these technologies. And next is I think JavaScript. When we started, at least when I started my career, I hated JavaScript. The reason being that it was not object oriented, the types were not defined, it used to have a lot of bugs around it. So it was very difficult to code in JavaScript. But with the changes in the new JavaScript specification called ES6, the things have changed. So now JavaScript, TypeScript, which is a superset of JavaScript, have come up with object-oriented concepts, types, and many other things, and which has made coding much easier now. And also the coming of age of Node.js. So if you don't know, Node.js is server side for JavaScript. Generally JavaScript is executed on the browser, right? But Node.js, which is a technology, same code which you write on the client side can be executed on the server side. So Node.js has come into age, and most of the technologies which everybody is talking about, like Angular, React, Vue, all of them are based on TypeScript or ES6 which is the latest specification of JavaScript. And if you take, for example, Netflix, guys, do you know what is a global bandwidth which Netflix consumes in the world?
About 12%?
Probably 30%.
Okay, yeah, it is around 10 to 12%. So it's a huge, and they are using Node.js and they are on Amazon Web Services. So imagine Node.js has come into age. So Netflix, which has the most watched shows in the world, is using Node.js. And also, as I mentioned, Angular, React are other technologies which use JavaScript and which are made popular by Google and Facebook. Guys do not know, Angular is spearheaded by Google and React by Facebook. So JavaScript is coming to age, and as I mentioned, it's going to be the future. So anybody who wants to be a good web developer has to know JavaScript for sure. That is a second evolution I'm seeing in the last 15 years. And the third one is the smartphones. Why I'm saying smartphones is that with the advancement of the display sizes and also the pixels which we can display on a smartphone, companies are looking at towards mobile first development. So if I take an example, if I have a website and also a mobile app to develop, and I don't have too many resources to choose from, then probably I will go with React. The reason is because if a person knows React, he can also work on React Native. So that person can build a website as well as a mobile app using React Native. So that has also made people to think on what technologies to use. So I'm not sure whether you guys have heard about this new technology called Flutter, which is a new technology which has been backed by Google. So using this, we can create a website, we can create a mobile app, you can create a desktop application. So it has, the future is like, I believe there'll be one programming language which can be used to create content on, let's say, TV, smartphones, website, maybe a native Windows app. So that's where we are heading. So I think Flutter is one of the technologies which is trying native. So as I mentioned, the smartphone also has started the trend of new technologies built around various form factors.
So thank you, Vara. That was really a detailed explanation, and we really appreciate you highlighting the three components of it. The infrastructure side, which is primarily from containers and microservices standpoint. The JavaScript side, with the latest version of ES6 and the TypeScript. And the third component, smartphones, in which React and Flutter are actually going to play big in this area. We thank you for that detailed explanation.
I think it was a great summary, Vara. When you spoke about that smartphone development, it reminded of those 2009 days when we started developing this EliteNet mobile, and we have researched on that compact HTML part of it. And nowadays, developers have a lot of technologies that are available, and at the click of a button, and majority of them are supported by some powerful integrated development environments or the IDEs. So very good summary. All right, so for someone who just started as a programmer, what changes can they expect in the web technologies in the future?
Okay, interesting question. As I mentioned before, JavaScript is going to be the future because there are so many JavaScript libraries which are coming up, just like Java, which have whatever functionality you require. For example, if you want to display a Excel, if you want to download an Excel file, or if you want to create a PDF. So we have all these libraries available for JavaScript like we have for Java. And also there are certain other libraries which are changing the way we query data. For example, GraphQL, which is a query language for API. So if you have a RESTful web services, you can use query language to query that API. So I believe that JavaScript is going to be the future, and everybody who's interested in web technologies have to look at learning JavaScript and also keep in touch with whatever changes which are happening with JavaScript. Other thing, I think, because I'm from e-commerce space, so let me give a perspective of what I think will be the change in future for the e-commerce space. If you see, as I mentioned, a lot of infrastructure has changes happening from the day at least I started my career. Basically, because the cost of moving to cloud has decreased so much, and there are a lot of benefits. A lot of companies are moving their products to cloud, for example SAP. So it is moving a lot of their products to cloud because it gives a lot of benefits for the customers as well, because the licensing fees decreases, due to which what has happened now is that people are going towards headless e-commerce. What I meant by headless e-commerce is that basically when you create a e-commerce site, you have both front end and back end in the same code base, or residing on the same server. But headless e-commerce changes that. You have front end decoupled from your back end, so the UI piece of it is decoupled from your business logic. So that is the major change which I see coming up in the e-commerce space. And you'll see that companies are exposing APIs, and as a company you can create your own user interfaces and consume those APIs. You need not depend on, for example, a company to give their UI for you to choose from. So you can create your own experience for the user. So that is a major change I'm seeing in the e-commerce space right now. So I see other things, as I mentioned, APIs, right? So a lot of companies are coming with API first approach trend. So basically to capture the microservice based advantages, so they are coming up with API first approach so that they can build a better performing application. Because if you have correct APIs built in, then the data you expose to the users or third party vendors is going to be better in a way where all the functionalities which the consumers want. And also there is no clear winner in the hybrid mobile development space. So I'm seeing that there might be advances in this area. As I mentioned earlier, Google Flutter is one which is coming up, which is interesting technologies. I think everybody can experiment with that, because they'll actually look and feel of a Google Flutter app is similar to a native app, which is not with any other technologies which have come so far. So I think Google Flutter is something which is going to be adopted a lot in future. So I think these are the things which anybody who is new to programming or want to know what technologies are going to shape up in future can have a look at these items.
Very, very insightful, Vara. Coming to the web services, to the microservices architecture, probably I would also recommend the programmers or the young developers out there to take a look at what was existing in the past and how things have evolved, so that they can have a better picture and they can be prepared for future technologies. So thank you for the comprehensive answer. Now, Vara, what are some of the resources which someone can leverage in order to learn web technologies? Because we have so many avenues that are available in the market today. I'm sure many of the folks might be confused which one to choose. And if I remember correctly, GitHub just started when I was about to give up on the programming. And to be honest, currently I'm way behind in those aspects and really curious to understand about the platforms that are available for programmers today. So can you share some thoughts?
Okay, so let me get it straight. So you're saying like what are the platforms available today for the programmers to learn new technologies, right?
Exactly.
The leading platform, I think, which is more suits students, I believe, is Udemy. Okay, so it's an online training site which has got videos of any technologies you name. Okay, and these are on-demand, self-spaced online courses taught by the leading industry-leading tech minds. And also it's a very pocket friendly. If you buy the courses on the when there is a discount, you will get these courses for mere 400 rupees. I think everybody should check out Udemy. I'll tell you, personally, I have around 50 courses which I have bought from Udemy. For 400 rupees, you get the best courses. I think that is what you have to think about. And the thing is, a lot of people or a lot of students think that, why do we spend money and why can't I go look at YouTube videos? But the thing is, YouTube videos will not have that comprehensive information which a course on Udemy has. So I would request everybody to at least spend around 400 rupees a month and buy a course in Udemy and learn the technology which they want to learn, aspire to become good at it. Okay, other site I would say is Coursera. So there are a couple of nano degrees, like you have a degree which you can post-diploma degree you can get from any university. There's an online site called Coursera where you can get a nano degrees, and these are recognized by leading companies but it's a bit costly. So that is other side which I recommend. Apart from these, right, what I would recommend is that you start a hobby project. Like for example, you want to build up your online resume or whatever it interests you. Okay, you want to build a online game. So I would request you to create a AWS, Google, or Azure account, register a domain, start deploying your application to cloud. And the other thing is that if you get your hands dirty, you will get confidence. Confidence is a thing which you cannot get without trying to code. So only when you code you get confidence. So that's why I was saying is that start getting your hands dirty and start deploying certain applications to cloud. And I'm telling you, Naveen or Sudhakar, how much do you think if I want to create my own website on the cloud will cost? Any guesses?
If you want your own domain, probably it will cost couple of thousand rupees. Yeah, couple of thousand rupees.
Okay, you want to host a website, then how much do you think? Any guesses?
Maybe 10,000 rupees per year.
Okay. Let me give my experience. I have a site called www.varasrinivas.com. That particular site I built around 2 years back. So the domain cost of varasrinivas.com is around 1,000 rupees, and I built a site using just HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. The maintenance cost, I'll tell you, apart from the domain registration, is just around 40 to 50 rupees. Okay, so imagine you can have your own domain plus own your website for mere 2,000 rupees. So it's a throwaway price. So everybody should try it out. That's what I would suggest, so that they get an experience on what it is to have a real application in the cloud.
So you said it is 2,000 rupees per year or per month?
Per year.
Per year. All right. Thanks for clarifying.
Yeah. So other thing I would recommend is that they're listening to this podcast, they also can listen to some other podcasts which are specific to the technology which they are interested in. For example, if you want to listen to web development in length, then there is a podcast called Syntax which they can listen, and also subscribe to tech blogs. And also, as I mentioned, the best thing is to have a hobby and start working on that hobby. That's what I would recommend, Naveen.
Sure, Vara. Just to summarize some of the options that Vara has mentioned, one of them is listeners can explore courses on Udemy or Coursera, and nano degree courses or technical courses are available at the cost of a pizza or a coffee. Maybe they may start at 400 rupees when you have some good offers. And second one is you can start your own website by exploring the cloud technologies. I think these are all very good options, and I'm sure it will help the passionate developers or aspiring programmers to make their hands dirty and get started. So thank you for those tips, Vara.
No problem.
So Vara, after gaining the knowledge through the resources you mentioned, to get a real-time programming experience, what is your opinion on the crowdsourcing projects and freelancing aspects?
Great question, Sudhakar. If a student or anybody who is looking for any side project, I would recommend them to look out open source project on GitHub and start forking those projects and try to contribute. So the reason why I'm saying is that the more you contribute on GitHub, the more you'll get noticed. So the perfect example I would say is Redux. Redux wanted to create a state management module. Thus he created a project in GitHub and created Redux, and a lot of people started using that particular module, and now he is working for Facebook. So that's a great example how you can contribute or create a project in GitHub and get noticed. The other thing I would say is that partner with non-profit organizations and contribute your time to their additional needs. So that is a great way of getting real-time programming experience. Third thing maybe I would say is a think like an entrepreneur. So check out whether if your local supermarket or gift shop need a website. So basically you can tell them that you can create a website for 1,000 rupees or some amount, and can build a website for them. That way you can build a couple of projects and build your reputation, and it will be great addition to your resume, and it will be a stepping stone for your career. And also it will give you confidence when you apply for interviews, and also your resume will look good when you really have a couple of interesting projects which you have done. Right now a lot of companies are looking for certifications as well. So if you are interested in Java or learn Java or Spring, I would recommend you to get certified in Spring or Java, and it's a great way to learn and get rewarded. And also, I mean, personally, this is something which I recommend to everyone. If you're interested in gaming, try to create a game using Unity, which you also has plugins for developing on C#. Great way to learn a technology and also build something which is interesting. There are also ways of creating games in JavaScript. You can also choose that. Last thing I would recommend is that YouTube is a great platform to get exposure. If you're an engineering student, what I would suggest is, if you're trying to build a project or trying to learn something new, try to record that, and maybe once in 2 days you publish that particular recording to YouTube. You do it for 1 year, you get recognition. I'll bet that within 1 year you will get, let's say, around 1,000-2,000 subscribers. That is enough for you to gain confidence. You can be a better programmer if you try to code every day for 1 year. So that is also something which you can look at, which can make you a better programmer and also kind of get you real-time experience.
Those are all wonderful suggestions, Vara. We did not have these kind of avenues when we were programming, and the youth out there and all the young developers can definitely leverage these opportunities that the market is offering today and benefit for their own gain. Many of our listeners might be curious about finding a project for themselves, especially those in the student categories, because nowadays AICTE has mandated all the technical and professional students to work on an internship project to be able to qualify for their final certificate. And I'm sure the options that you mentioned, one is related to finding a community project on github.com, where the listeners can go ahead and choose a project of their interest, fork on it, and create more modules so that their work is visible. And second option is maybe they can develop a project for their neighborhood supermarket or any store by themselves by picking up the most famous cloud architectures that are available, which are offering some throwaway prices. And third option is about starting a YouTube channel wherein somebody can start their own tutorials with regard to technology courses, because if somebody has to teach to someone, then it will take a lot of efforts and it will make them sound more and more confident when they are teaching to someone else, and in that process they are going to acquire a wealth of knowledge and wisdom in the technology space. And last but not the least, all the three above options are very, very useful because they are readily available on the internet for anybody to verify. And in case if somebody is working on this space, all their work is visible and they can flaunt it on their resume, and somebody like a hiring manager can verify their work. So students, go ahead and leverage all these options that are available out there.
Yeah, I have seen great summary, Naveen. Yeah, would not have put it better than this. Thank you.
Thanks, Vara. Wonderful conversation, and I'm loving the topic that are arising out of this conversation. So, knowing your passion towards gaming and gadgets, I'm really interested to know, what did you buy recently, Vara?
But Naveen, you know that, right? I got married a couple of years back.
Yeah.
So after that, no gadgets, no games, man. But jokes apart, what my wife says is that if you want to buy something, it should be worthwhile, something which is functional, which will add value to what you buy. Okay, so the thing I bought is Jabra headset. Okay, it's a Jabra headset 75. It's the best investment I think I made ever, because it comes with a physical mute button and it has a retractable microphone, which is absolutely amazing. So if I just flip microphone, it gets muted. So I no longer have. If I no longer have to sit near my computer for during the meetings. Actually, I can mute the meeting through my headset itself, and it has got a great battery backup and great clarity too. And it is out of box integration with the Skype, Teams, and Zoom as well.
Cool.
It has made my daily life much easier. If you're interested, you can check it out. It's called Jabra Evolve 100. Yeah.
Sure, Vara. And Vara, having been associated with you for last 13-14 years, it's great to see how you keep posted yourself current in the dynamic technology world. So what will be your recommendation for our listeners to keep themselves up to date?
Basically, what I do is that there's a platform called Medium. It's a medium where you can get articles related to wide variety of topics. So I have a subscribes for that particular platform, and whenever I get chance, I go and read those articles and get information, latest information on the technologies I'm interested in. So Medium is one thing which I regularly look into. And you also have this feature in Google. So if you search for anything on Google, and you will get Discover in Google. I think you Google app. If you see right on your smartphone, there will be a couple of options. When you hit on Google, there will be something called Discover, Update, Search. There are a few options. So whenever you search for a topic, that topic will come under Discover. So that is one other way I keep updated. So there is a option where if you like an article which is shown by Google, and you can click a button and you can say that more, then Google will automatically try to recommend more articles around that. So that is other way which you can choose to stay updated. The third thing I generally do is that I listen to podcasts like Syntax, because they are into these trends day in day out, because they try on these technologies so that they provide latest information to the students. So that's why I believe anybody who is interested in web technologies should listen to a podcast called Syntax. And of course, other than this this particular podcast, the other thing is that if you have a Udemy account, I would recommend you to go just look. If you don't have any if you're not learning something, but I would recommend just go and search their homepage. You'll have the latest trending tutorials which are available. That will give you some knowledge on what is trending in the current market. So that is other way to keep in touch with the ever-changing world of technology.
Wonderful, Vara. So thanks for helping me discover about Google Discover. I'm definitely going to try that, and I'm sure our listeners would also be interested in doing that.
Vara, other than the most recent position you had, that is Java Evolve 75, what is one app or gadget that you would recommend for everyone to start using?
That's a tough question actually, because there are a lot of apps which I have on my phone. But one thing which I use on a daily basis is called a reminder app called Any.do. I mean, I've not seen any app which gives you reminders in the way which this app gives. So I definitely recommend our listeners to at least check this out. The other ones I would recommend is that, if you're interested in reading ebooks, I would definitely recommend you to subscribe for Kindle subscription, which is around 150 rupees. It just got launched, I think, a month back. So there are a lot of books which you can read for 160 rupees a month. So there are tons of books, even not related to technology. So that is definitely something which you can check out. And the Microsoft OneNote is other thing. It's amazing actually, where you can jot down your notes. So if that is if you're a student, I think you should definitely check out Microsoft OneNote. I have all my notes on OneNote, and it's a lifesaver actually. And Naveen and Sudhakar, do you have any app suggestions for me? Because it's been a long time where I've asked for a recommendation.
We generally follow Keep, Google Keep.
Okay, that's a good tool.
Valuable tips, Vara, and I can't thank you enough for sharing all those wonderful tips which are going to help the productivity of our listeners. The Sudhakar and I are going to start downloading some of them and also aspire to buy certain gadgets that you recommended to. Now, I know that your daughter is keeping you very busy these days. Still, you made time to join our discussion. So, sincerely appreciate that. And thank you so much for sparing your time with us.
We really appreciate your insights in this episode. It was indeed a great conversation with a ton of knowledge about web technologies. Like I was mentioning, not coming from coding as a primary skill, I got to know many things in this episode. And I'm sure our listeners will immerse themselves into the ocean of web technologies. Thank you.
Thanks Naveen and Sudhakar for this conversation. It was like I was guest in a radio station. It was a new experience. Never had this before. And also I would like to thank all the listeners who have tuned in today. Any questions you have or you want to reach out to me, I think Naveen is going to post that information along with this podcast. Naveen, maybe I will also give you some of the links which I think will be useful. Maybe you can put it in the podcast. But again, I would like to say this, Naveen and Sudhakar, thanks for taking up this initiative, and you guys are doing great work from taking time from your busy schedule. This is going to help out a lot of students who need guidance in their career path, which at least I did not have when I started. So I think this is a great initiative you guys have taken, and I would say all the best for you guys. I hope this podcast becomes as popular as any other podcast in the world. That's what I want to leave you guys with.
Thank you so much, Vara, for coming and joining us for today's episode, and thank you for all the best wishes, and we have a long way to go. Thank you so much.
Dear listeners, To know more about our speaker and the content, visit or follow us on social media or feel free to email us.
Alright, folks, this brings us to the trivia segment of this episode. Today's trivia is related to the bug bounty program, which many companies are adopting. Bug bounty program is a reward offered to a person who identifies an error or vulnerability in a computer program or an application. The bug bounty program has paid out more than $7.5 million over time, and in 2018 alone they paid $1.1 million to those who found out some security issues or bugs. And in case if you find a security bug in Facebook's code, Facebook is willing to pay you an amount starting from $500 for you to tell them about it. Alright? So if you'd like to share any trivias, please feel free to share them through email, theguidingvoice number 4 letter U @gmail.com, or you can SMS us or WhatsApp us on India number 9494587187. We will not only share the best trivias in future episodes, but we will also announce your names on this show. Again, folks, we are open for suggestions on topics that you would like to hear from us through email. Our email address is theguidingvoice number 4 letter U @gmail.com. I repeat, the email address is theguidingvoice number 4 letter U @gmail.com, and you may also WhatsApp us on India number 9494587187. Request you to like our page on Facebook, facebook.com/theguidingvoice number 4 letter U, and follow us on Twitter, twitter.com/guidingvoice, to stay tuned about future episodes. There is more in store. Until next time, have a wonderful time. Take care and be safe. Thank you for listening. Thank you so much.